This image tells you so much about the film you're going to be seeing this week. It's by Richard Avedon, probably the most famous fashion photographer in America, especially at Harper's Bazaar, for some 50 years, beginning in the late 1940s. Avedon's image is of the stunningly beautiful Audrey Hepburn, who in 1957 co-starred with Fred Astaire in her first movie musical, Funny Face. The ultra-sophisticated look and use of color in this film, that's one of the things that makes it unique. There's no other film musical I know of that actually employed a visual consultant, but this one did. And the stylish, sublime touch of Richard Avedon is everywhere apparent, even in those opening credits. But that's not to underestimate what everyone contributed to this movie. An American in Paris, was mostly filmed on MGM's back lot. But this one took us on location to the Eiffel Tower, Notre Dame, the Champs-Élysées, Sacré-Cœur. All of these are very, very real places in the movie. The title comes from Fred and his sister Adele's 1927 Broadway musical by the Gershwin brothers, and though the plot was thrown out, all but 3 of the songs you'll hear are vintage Gershwin, including He Loves and She Loves, Swonderful, and How Long Has This Been Going On? Screenwriter Leonard Gersh, director Stanley Donen, and producer Roger Edens were Arthur Freed's invaluable compatriots at MGM. Of course, Fred Astaire was too, though in 1957 he was at Paramount along with Hepburn. And they all went to Paramount. I don't want to hear any grousing about the 30-year age difference between the 2 stars. The fact is, Hepburn insisted on Astaire, who had been an idol of hers for 20 years. But why was Richard Avedon so important to Funny Face? Well, writer Leonard Gersh wanted to make a film that was both satirical and romantic about the 1950s fashion industry. Dick Avery, Astaire's character, was based on Avedon himself, and the magazine editor Maggie Prescott, played by Kay Thompson, we're going to get to her later, Maggie's role was inspired by Carmel Snow of Harper's Bazaar. The film even takes a little swipe at Jean-Paul Sartre. In this movie, the father of existentialism is named Paul Duval, who has hatched something called empathicalism. Give me just 30 seconds to tell you what Funny Face is about, okay? Hepburn is a young Greenwich Village intellectual who is whisked off to Paris, rather against her will, by the gung-ho magazine editor who wants her to be photographed by Astaire for the next issue. The theme is Think Pink. She and Astaire fall in love as he develops his photos of her in the dark room. Remember those? And she soon becomes a très chic top model, although their romance is temporarily threatened by the advances of the pretentious philosopher. If you say the ending is contrived, I'll agree with you. But this is a Cinderella story. And to enjoy it, you're going to have to keep in mind that what we've got here is very much a 1950s American fantasy. Granted, this is Paris, but in the 1950s, Paris was the dream city for middle-class Americans. I mean, you may be put off that Hepburn gives up her Greenwich Village bohemianism in favor of what men apparently look for in women and what women in that era try to become to please them. And Astaire molds her as Pygmalion did Galatea. Also, there's a brief moment when a man slapping a woman in the face is played for laughs. It's a satire on Parisian street life that recalls the sometimes violent Apache dance. And there's a dance number performed by Astaire and Kay Thompson that is sensational, except that it has an uncomfortable echo of black minstrel shows. But there's so much to admire in this movie without hesitation. Hepburn, for starters. She was already a movie star thanks to Roman Holiday and Sabrina, but she did only 2 musicals, the other one being My Fair Lady, of course. The thing is, she had always wanted to do a musical. You may not know that she trained as a dancer, and her big number in A Bistro is just terrific. She was not a trained singer, though, which is why she was dubbed in My Fair Lady. But no dubbing here. And for me, her performance of How Long Has This Been Going On is definitive. I really mean that, definitive. Whenever I hear the song in my head, it's Hepburn's captivating intimacy that makes me smile. Astaire was then 58 and only 2 films away from the end of a career that began with vaudeville as a child and led to Broadway stardom in the 1920s. Funny Face was his 29th film, and if he's looking just a little bit tired, that may be because the commanding Kay Thompson is putting them all through their paces. And who, you may ask, is Kay Thompson, who provides Funny Face with so many delightful surprises? She was a living hurricane, my friends. She made only a few films. This one is the biggie, but consider. In the 1930s, Thompson led her own vocal group, the Rhythm Singers, and became a recording and radio star for her daring vocal arrangements. In the 1940s, she ran MGM's vocal music department, and her arrangements at MGM for every large chorus were even more thrilling. At MGM, she also coached every star on the lot, from Lena Horne to Judy Garland, and they were so close that Liza became her goddaughter. In the late 1940s and 50s, she headlined in the poshest nightclubs around the country, singing and dancing as Kay Thompson and the Williams Brothers, including, as you might guess, the young Andy. By the way, part of what they did in their act was a lot of jazzy, stylized hand clapping. But in this movie, as I mentioned, it comes awfully close to minstrelsy. In 1955, she wrote the first of 6 bestsellers about a 6-year-old living at the Plaza Hotel, a cute but mischievous little girl who, guess what, reminds us of Thompson. Title? Eloise, a book for precocious grown-ups. And she meant it. If she went into a New York bookstore and saw the Eloise books in the children's section, she moved them. I tell you all of this because, for me, it's Kay Thompson's galvanic energy that drives this movie. Apparently, more than anything else, she hated to be bored. And without taking anything away from Stanley Donen's direction or Leonard Gersh's screenplay, it's the amazing Kay who keeps flinging a word around that epitomizes this film. And although she didn't make it up, she should have. The word is pizzazz, and you'll hear it all over the place. I think there's something a little bit sad about this movie. It's that all this vitality and zest and glamour would seem to suggest we're in the golden age of the Hollywood musical. Unfortunately, though MGM's wondrous Gigi came out the very next year, Funny Face is pretty close to the end of the line. But you know what? I will take my pizzazz wherever I can find it. I'm Bill Rudman from the Musical Theater Project.